Hello everyone and welcome back to On the Workbench. I want to thank all my loyal subscribers for sticking with me as we keep expanding this channel. Today I'd like to share with you my latest project. This is actually, I finished it a while back and you may have seen previews in other videos. But this is my power tool workbench where I combined many of my benchtop power tools, including a belt sander, a miter saw, a jointer, a scroll saw, and a planer into one single station that combines all these tools and allows me to get the full range of capacity out of all of them. This was strategically designed with a lot of details in mind to get the most out of all my tools. And everyone is placed on this table where I can get the full width from the miter saw with no interference from the left or to the right. There's a light, obviously, to the left of the scroll saw. I'm sorry, the miter saw. The scroll saw has its own light that's actually built into the tool. And I can go to left and right in the full depth of that. The dovetail jig here is just a complete option. I didn't actually intend it to be here, but it just happens to fit nicely and keeps it out of the way in my shop. I can turn the miter saw out of the way and get the full capacity of the jointer. I also have the dust collection ports that are accessible, so this can sit flush up against the wall. And the extra light here with the LED bulb provides the extra illumination that's nice, either when I'm working in the garage or just want some extra light on the lines. This also has an integrated power solution with an extension cord that's wired into an outlet box that powers it. There's a hook here I can hang my power cord loop on it to keep everything nice and tidy. I know if you look underneath there, you can see I haven't tidied up the cords yet with my cable ties yet, but that's still coming. So I'm excited about this. Whenever we look around here from the end, if we look straight on, we can see I can actually use the joint or the planer this way, going straight through if I had my depth set correctly. Or if I go around to the other end, I can use the scroll saw, and I've got a space for my knees to go get in when I'm sitting on a chair and scroll sawing. Because I think all these little details matter to go get the most form and function out of my design, as well as when considering how to build a setup and use the planer. I designed this where this actually has a pull-out, it's almost like a drawer or retracting table here. It's on a series of drawer slides that allows us to extend out and double, or not quite double, the depth of the bench with a fold-down leg. My planer can use the full width of this bed to be able to move my material through. Eventually I want to be able to build some bed extensions for it to help minimize snipe. I got the fold down foot to be able to stabilize it when it's in use. I got the access to the crank conveniently placed on the outside of this. My power cord goes back up on the other side, back into my outlet that I got built into the table. And so if you're wondering how strong this is with my design here, you'll see me stand on this in just a moment to be able to demonstrate the strength that I can get out of this with this design. But all these little details matter for trying to be able to get this all set up. It's also, if you look at my floor here, you can see where there's a crack in the floor, so I've got some feet that adjust. There we go. Now I'm standing on it here to be able to see that this is rock solid with no problem. And so I figure if I can stand on it slightly off center, everything should be fine. So the whole concept of this started with quite a bit of planning, drawing, and sketching. I don't really have very good drawing skills, so my drawings probably mean nothing to anyone else that's watching this, but I spent quite a bit of time measuring, looking at the details, and trying to really plan out my design on paper before I actually tried moving it into actual wood cutting and materials. I also bought my casters early on in the process, so I get the right overall height relative to my own body size. Spent a lot of time measuring my tools and the proportions of them and the depths and sizes needed to maximize the capacity, and laying out all the details so that when I started making my cuts, I could end up with the final design that I was hoping to achieve and to be able to get the most out of it. An ounce of planning can really go far more than that in reality and bringing this whole idea to life before my very eyes. So now as we move over to the table saw here, I started off my project cutting all the lumber down to size. You can see I'm using primarily 2x6 just basic framing studs for a majority of the project. I'm using dados that I cut into it right here to be able to hold my vertical pieces in. My casters will go underneath here, and that little sport there, that little flange hanging off the edge, so whenever I push this up against the wall, I'll have a little bit of extra space to be able to account for dust collection fittings on the end, to be able to access the dust collection system that runs around my shop, as well as some extra space here to be able to get the caster centered underneath the vertical pieces. Because I'm using 2x6 framing lumber and my dado stack is not 1.5 inches wide, I'm going to have to cut all my dados in 2 passes, and so I can cut it in 1 pass, come back and move my fence and then get the second part of that dado. So all these dados got cut in 2 passes, so I got sick of using my dado blade more than I wanted to on this project, but I wanted to have some strong, secure joints to help hold everything nice and square to be able to ensure the success of the project. And so it just took a little bit of lining up and playing to get everything square, and I just batched everything out so everything would be perfectly symmetrical and identical from end to end, and I could swap as many parts around as possible. As we move on, and we can see I also did lap joints along the structure. I also have a couple 2x4s set in here so that for that pull-out shelf that holds my planer, I needed a 2x4 on the front side of that and a 2x6 in the back so that the shelf could pull out. But everything else is 2x6s, so I had to make sure I thought about the width of my dados on which pieces. So unfortunately, some of these for these long side stretchers are not perfectly reversible. I also think about that on some of the pocket holes I cut on the side because there's an extra reinforcement that's going to go down in the corner here. I made a few little small mistakes, had a little bit of tear out on one end of my lumber. I'm using some recycled lumber out of an old workbench that the previous homeowner left in the garage, and I'm ripping apart a scrap lumber. So some glue and screws holds a lot of this together, and took a little bit here of trying to get everything just squared up, sitting in the dados with the right clamps, and come back and adding some extra reinforcing pieces. I'm just using some pocket holes here. This isn't fine furniture. This is a shop project. Even though it looks nice, I can still find plenty of little to small flaws in it, but structurally it's fine. One of my key details here is this right angle corner clamp that allows me to line up my materials here at the perfect angle. I also came back with some gloss black paint to go paint everything up so I can wipe the dust off relatively easily, and it just looks nice in the shop to have something nice and painted that looks very purpose-built. Now, when it comes to planning, you can see I'm using 22-inch drawer slides. This is another key detail in that planning process of knowing what length of drawer slides you have available. They're trying to just optimize every inch of your design. And so these drawer slides then get attached in 2 parts here. Here I'm using some 2x3s that then go up against the bottom here, and you can see the drawer slides with the top of these 2x6 runners. And the drawer slides just line up nice and neat up against that. They're 22 inches a piece. So everything here lines up. I just cut them to the length of the drawer slide, and that worked well for my design and my planer. These slide in just like regular drawers, even though this is not a true drawer. And then I'm going to come back and then add some extra bits of framing to be able to square this off, to be able to take all these 4 separate drawer slides and turn them into essentially one giant drawer by running this piece across the front. You can see that just pocket holes right into the side grain or the long grain on this board. Some additional reinforcements go in across the rear to be able to square things up. Now, because my garage floor isn't perfectly level and I want my support rod, my support stand to be able to support everything, I'm having to drill out some ends on my legs to be able to then insert these adjustable feet. Those go in with some folding cabinet hinges, so those get screwed onto the front, and then with that I can then drop down this leg and have it retract up or down, obviously when it's down in use, but then when it's up I can retract it back. There's a few little quirks here just in terms of just the weight of that when I go to retract it. If I'm not purposeful and lift that up, it can get stuck, as you can see right here. I just have to slide it right up, and then it goes right across that board and then comes down. Because of that 2x4 right there in front and the way the hinges are set up, it prevents the legs from dropping down when it is in the closed position, as you can see right here on the video. So now as we look at where we're at right now in the build process here, everything's all painted. But there's no tools on the table yet. Pretty pleased with how this is coming so far. And then I spent quite a bit of time trying to get all of the Tetris game with all my tools put together and lining them up. I had all this done on paper, and everything worked well on paper. Trying to get it then transferred to real life took a little bit of planning and coordination to get all the right little details, as well as planning where everything was going to go. You can see my outlet box here that I wired this with an extension cord and some outlets that mounts underneath, as well as the flip out blocks that prevent the planer tray from sliding back in when it's open. Those just flip right down to be able to lock it out. The last thing I want is this planer stand or the planer drawer vibrating when the planer is in use. Also cut in a hole so I can manage my cords coming down through the top, and placing that was also strategic based on the cord length. I found this LED light bulb and light fixture that matches some of the other lights. This is a Delta product that I can also screw down to my workbench, so I can also add some illumination to it. So now finally, you can see the finished product here with all the tools and the lights on it. I got some cleanup to do with the power cords underneath the workbench, and I'm really excited about this project and what it means for the efficiency in my garage workshop. So thanks for watching today. I hope you learned something. And if you're interested in an extended version, please check the description below. I've got almost an hour-long video that goes into much more detail about this project. Please click the like or the subscribe buttons for sticking with me, and have a great day.